Have you ever noticed how silence changes a room? Not the awkward kind, but the kind that makes people suddenly straighten up, sense something different in the air, and start choosing their words carefully. That's not mystery. That's energy being redirected. And most people never learn how to use it. Why silence feels so loud? You've probably felt it before. You stop responding right away. You don't explain yourself. You let a message sit unread. And suddenly the same people who once overlooked you are asking if you're okay. What shifted wasn't your worth, it was your access. Human beings are wired to value what becomes scarce. Behavioral researchers have known this for decades. When something we take for granted pulls away, the brain interprets it as loss, and loss demands attention. That's why your silence speaks louder than a dozen explanations ever could. It signals self-possession. It tells the world, my energy isn't free anymore. The challenge, why we overgive. But if silence is so powerful, why do we avoid it? Because most of us were taught that constant availability equals love. We reply fast to prove we care. We agree to help because we fear being forgotten. Somewhere along the line, being needed began to feel safer than being known. It starts innocently, a text answered during dinner, a favor done despite exhaustion. Each small surrender feels harmless until the pattern forms a subtle contract that says, I'll keep showing up as long as you keep approving. That's not connection, that's dependency disguised as kindness. Carl Jung once observed that when we over-identify with the mask, we show the world, the authentic self begins to fade. Your helpful mask may win affection, but it also breeds quiet resentment. You start feeling unseen in rooms you built with your own effort. You give, and yet you shrink. The realization energy is currency. Think of your attention as a current of electricity. Every reaction, every long explanation, every quick reply transfers a charge. When that current runs unchecked, it drains your inner grid. You end up tired not because you did too much, but because you felt too much for too many. Modern psychology calls this emotional labor the invisible effort of managing other people's comfort. Do it long enough, and your nervous system forgets how to rest. You start mistaking tension for connection and depletion for devotion. But here's the shift, your energy is not endless. It's a budget. Every yes has a cost. Every no earns you interest. When you begin to see time and emotion as investments instead of obligations, the pattern starts to unravel. The turning point, the discipline of pausing. Power doesn't return in dramatic gestures. It seeps back the moment you pause before reacting. That half-second breath after a triggering message, the calm before you type a defense. Those are the moments where freedom hides. Neuroscience shows that emotional reactions surge through the body in roughly 90 seconds. If you can breathe through that wave without acting, you reclaim control of your chemistry. You turn the trigger into information instead of instruction. So when someone pushes your buttons and you stay quiet, it's not passivity, it's mastery. You're rewiring a reflex that used to give your power away. The practice silence as strategy. Start small. Let one message wait. Let one misunderstanding stand uncorrected. Feel the discomfort, then notice the peace that follows. You'll see something strange happen. People begin to recalibrate. They text with more intention. They choose their words with care. Because when you stop flooding the space with explanations, you create gravity. Your presence becomes felt rather than consumed. True silence isn't absence, it's containment. It's you holding your energy instead of handing it out for approval. Over time, this containment becomes charisma. People sense that you're grounded, not because you say so, but because you no longer chase being understood. The reflection from noise to knowing. There's a reason monks, sages, and even successful negotiators value silence. It reorganizes perception. In quiet, You start hearing what words usually drown out, the tone behind the tone, the motive beneath the compliment, the fatigue inside your own chest. You learn that not every message deserves a reply, not every emotion requires an audience, and not every invitation to conflict needs a guest. Silence filters what's real from what's reactive. And maybe for the first time, you realize that peace was never hiding from the world. It was hiding under your constant explaining. The closing, returning to yourself. So here's your gentle challenge. Before you react today, pause. Before you rush to fix, breathe. Before you speak to prove, sit in the stillness long enough to remember you don't need to be louder to be heard. Because real power doesn't arrive with noise, it returns with awareness. Ask yourself this tonight. Where have I been spending my silence? And what would happen if I started saving it for myself? Boundaries that breathe. Silence shows you where your power leaks. Boundaries decide where it stays. There's a moment most people miss. After the first pause, when you don't rush to reply, the old pattern tries to pull you back. Your chest tightens. Your mind writes speeches you don't need. Your fingers hover over the keyboard, ready to rescue a situation that isn't yours to hold. That's the cliff edge. Step back from it, and you begin a different life. Boundaries aren't fences you build against the world. They're contours that reveal your shape. They tell you, and everyone else, what keeps your nervous system steady enough to love well. Without them, kindness turns into self-erasure. With them, love stops feeling like a job and starts feeling like home. Let's get practical and also honest about the emotions underneath. When you grew up praised for being easy, reliable, and low maintenance, a boundary can feel rude. If you were the peacemaker, a pause feels like a threat. The approval you once earned by smoothing chaos now fights your growth. That's why your first boundaries won't feel triumphant. They'll feel strange, not because you're cold, but because your muscles are learning a new movement. There's also the myth that good people are always available. Look closely, and you'll see it's a trap. Constant availability doesn't make you loving, it makes you predictable. And predictability, in the wrong hands, becomes control. When someone knows exactly how to pull you into the same argument, they don't need your consent. They have your reflex. So we begin with the body. Your body knows before your mind admits. Tight jaw, shallow breath, shoulders slowly climbing toward your ears. That's your early warning system. Dr. Stephen Porges' work on the polyvagal theory points to something simple. The state of your nervous system dictates the quality of your connection. If your system is stuck in fight or appease, no sentence will save that conversation. You don't negotiate a boundary from a flooded state. You return to a steady one, then you speak or you don't. This is where the pause becomes a practice. Give yourself 90 seconds. Emotions spike like a wave, then subside when you don't feed them. Let the wave pass. If a reply is still needed, your words will be cleaner. If not, the quiet will carry the message for you. Next is clarity. A boundary isn't a thesis. It's a simple line that adjusts access. Think in terms of doors. There's a door for your time, another for your attention, another for your deeper self. Not everyone holds the same key, not even people you love. That's not punishment, that's architecture. You set the architecture in ordinary moments. A friend texts, late expecting a quick fix. You breathe. You reply in the morning. The sky stays intact. Your family member calls just to vent while you're heading into work. You send a text, can't talk now, I'll check in this evening. You didn't abandon them. You put the conversation where your system can carry it without a crash. Boundaries don't remove care, they schedule it inside your capacity. There's also the calendar truth. We each have a social budget. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar suggested there's an upper limit to the meaningful connections we can maintain. Whether you agree with the exact number or not, your life proves the principle. Attention is finite. If everything is urgent, nothing is real. If everyone gets immediate access, you never get yourself. Let's talk scripts, because scripts help when your voice is shaky. You can use time-bound language that keeps dignity on both sides. I'm not available right now. I can talk tomorrow at 6. I read your message. I'll need a day to think about it. That topic doesn't work for me. I'm willing to discuss options A or B. I won't continue a conversation that includes name-calling. We can try again when it's respectful. Notice how these lines don't attack. They frame the room you're willing to enter. People who care about you will adjust their tone to fit that room. People who care about control will push harder. Both responses teach you something. You'll also need exit phrases, because not every conversation deserves your stamina. I'm going to end this here. We're repeating ourselves. I'm stepping back for now. This doesn't feel healthy for me. I'm signing off. You don't need a defense. A clean end is a message of its own. Think about technology. Your phone is a portal. Without rules, it turns your inner life into public property. Create quiet pockets. Turn off read receipts. Disable urgent alerts, except for real emergencies. Put the phone in another room while you sleep. Schedule replies. If something can wait, let it wait. When people learn you answer on your timeline, they stop treating your peace like a doorbell. Then there's the group chat, the place where you've rehearsed the same role for years. The fixer, the explainer, the spinner of jokes that defuse tension. Try something different this week. Read without rushing. Offer a simple, not available today, or say nothing and observe. You'll see who respects your new rhythm and who tries to drag you back into the old dance. Both data points are gifts. Let's look at relationships where the stakes are higher. Partners, parents, colleagues. You might hear, "You've changed." They're right. You have. You're changing the contract from unspoken service to mutual respect. Don't argue with the label. Don't write an essay. You can simply say, "I'm learning to take better care of my energy. It's new for me. I'm still here." If they respond with curiosity, that's a good sign. If they respond with guilt tactics or threats, that's not a communication issue. That's a power issue. And power issues don't get solved with nicer grammar. When guilt shows up, and it will remember what guilt often is in this context, the ache of a habit ending, the part of you that tied worth to usefulness will feel exposed. Be gentle with that part. You built it to survive environments that praised you for disappearing. Now you're teaching it a calmer home. Home takes time. Here's a quiet exercise that changes patterns faster than arguments do. Call it the white space hour. 1 hour every week, with no input and no output. No messages. No podcasts. No tabs open. Sit, walk, stretch, write by hand. Breathe. Let your mind slow enough to hear what it's been covering with noise. In that hour, you'll notice the requests you've been accepting out of reflex. You'll see the tiny resentments growing roots. You'll hear the part of you that only speaks when the world stops talking. That voice isn't dramatic. It's precise. It will tell you where to say no next. Another practice, the 2-yes rule. Before you agree to anything that costs your energy, it has to earn 2 yeses, 1 from your mind, 1 from your body. If your head says sure, but your stomach nods, it's a no for now. If your body feels open, but your head lists 10 reasons why you shouldn't, get curious. Is that caution or conditioning? You can take an hour, a day, a week. You don't owe anyone speed. People often ask, what if someone gets upset? They might. Upset is not the measure of truth. People get upset when you move the furniture in a room they've memorized. Give them time to learn the new layout. Some will leave. That is also an answer. Let's ground this with a simple map you can carry into your week. Start with mornings. Before you absorb the world, choose 3 things: your breath, your body, your focus. 1 minute of breathing that lengthens your exhale. 10 slow shoulder rolls. A question for the day: where will I not spend myself? Write one line. That line becomes your filter when messages arrive. At midday, build a boundary ritual. Step outside for 5 minutes or stand by a window. Hand on chest, hand on belly. Ask, what have I agreed to that I don't have the energy to keep? If you find something, send the message, I thought I could do this today. I need to move it to Friday. Most of the world survives this sentence. The part of you that needs to be a hero will protest. Thank it. Then, hit send. In the evening, practice closure. Not every day needs a perfect ending. It needs a soft landing. Put the phone in another room for 30 minutes. Warm drink. One page of a book where nothing depends on you. If there's a problem you can't stop rehearsing, write it down and schedule a time to think about it tomorrow. This is how you stop living your whole life in the same hour. What about people who thrive on drama? They will try to pull you back into speed. They feed on instant replies and long explanations because both are fuel. Starve the loop. Say less, later, or say nothing at all. You'll be called distant. You'll be called difficult. Smile at the labels and walk on. Distance isn't cruelty when closeness requires self-betrayal. A note on kindness. Boundaries don't cancel kindness. They make it sustainable. When your time and attention aren't bleeding out through 100 tiny leaks, your presence deepens. You stop resenting the people you love. You begin to enjoy them again, not as obligations, but as chosen companions. That's the quiet miracle of a stable nervous system. Affection returns. And a note on work. Many workplaces reward overextension, then quietly replace the people who burn out. You cannot wait for a system to guard your energy. Track your hours. Protect your focus blocks. Say, I can deliver this by Wednesday, or I can add the new task. I can't do both. Calm, clear, brief. If a culture punishes clarity, the problem isn't your sentence, it's the culture. Keep records. Keep receipts. Keep your center. Now grieve. You will grieve the old role. The helper who always had a joke. The fixer who could stretch time. The person who stood in the doorway of every storm and called it love. There was sweetness there. Keep the sweetness. Release the sacrifice. You can carry warmth without carrying everyone. There's also joy. The first time you say no, and your body doesn't brace, you'll smile without trying. The first time someone adjusts without punishing you, you'll feel something relax at the base of your skull. The first time you take a full day for yourself and no disaster arrives, you'll wonder why you waited so long. Keep going. Capacity grows in these quiet victories. A quick word about fairness. Boundaries don't always look fair from the outside. You may withdraw from a conversation that others want to continue. You may leave a group that used to define your weekends. You may disappoint people who never learned to hold their own discomfort. Let it be unfair in their story. Keep your peace in yours. If you need a one-sentence compass for stressful moments, try this. I refuse to abandon myself to keep a pattern alive. Say it softly. Mean it. Patterns end when one person stops rehearsing. That person can be you. Before we close, here are a few living practices you can adopt this month. Not as rules to impress anyone, but as small rituals that return your time to you. Pick an office hour for your digital life. 1 hour, twice a day, when you answer messages. Outside that window, you read or you don't, but you don't reply. People adapt. Your mind thanks you. Create a yes list. 3 categories that always get your best: health, core relationships, deep work. When a request competes with those, it needs a very good reason. Most don't have one. Try the friction log for a week. Every time your stomach drops during a conversation, write down what was happening. After 7 days, choose one recurring friction point and set a single boundary around it. 1 line, 1 change. Small hinges move big doors. Practice the clear close. When a talk turns unkind, You end it gently and cleanly. No last jab. No lecture. This isn't working for me. I'm stopping here. You'll sleep better than the person who won the argument. Honor a Sabbath of self. Half a day each week with no social performance. You're not disappearing. You're returning. When you re-enter, you'll bring a steadier presence. That helps everyone. You might worry all this will make you hard. The opposite is true. The most open people you meet, the ones who listen without rushing to fix, who give without resentment, are the ones whose boundaries hold. Their yes has weight because their no has roots. One last reflection on scarcity, because it cuts both ways. We talked about how people chase what becomes less available. Be careful not to gain that truth. If you withdraw to punish, you'll feel it in your chest, a cold edge that makes connection brittle. Pull back to protect, not to control. The first heals you. The second turns you into what hurt you. As boundaries settle into your bones, you'll notice a new quiet in ordinary places. A line at the store where you don't reach for your phone. A long drive where the silence feels clean. A dinner where you taste your food because you're not bracing for the next request. Life becomes less about managing fires and more about tending a steady flame. That's the gift you offer the people who love you, a you who is actually present, not stretched to a thin echo. A you who chooses them from a full heart, not from pressure. A you who can say yes with warmth because no is no longer forbidden. So tonight, write one boundary you'll hold this week. Not 10. 1. Put it somewhere visible. Breathe when the old reflex begs you to break it. Keep the line. Watch how your world rearranges around your steadiness. You don't need to be louder. You need to be clear. You don't need more patience for chaos. You need less tolerance for self-abandonment. You don't need to prove you care. You need to care for the person you bring to every room. You already know how to cross oceans for other people. Now learn the short walk back to yourself. I'm proud of you for even considering it. Before you sleep, ask yourself, what single boundary, held gently for 7 days, would create the most peace in my life? And am I willing to keep it even when no one is watching? The rebirth of solitude. There's a quiet moment that arrives after boundaries take root. The noise fades. Your phone stays silent longer. Fewer people reach out just to check in. The space you once filled with endless doing becomes wide and unfamiliar. And for a while, that silence can feel like loss. But what if it's not loss at all? What if it's freedom arriving in a form your nervous system doesn't yet recognize? The hook, when the noise stops. Most people think transformation feels like fireworks, sudden, obvious, celebrated. But real change often sounds like nothing. Just a slow hush after years of overextension. You wake up one morning and notice there's nothing to fix. No one waiting for your reassurance. No constant hum of other people's expectations inside your head. And in that stillness, an unexpected fear appears. What if I've gone too far? What if I'm isolating myself? That voice isn't truth, it's withdrawal. You're detoxing from dependency, from the high of constant involvement. You've lived so long as a mirror for others that when no one's reflection remains, you wonder if you still exist. But this emptiness is the space where you start to meet yourself. The challenge facing the echo. Carl Jung called it individuation, the process of becoming who you are beyond your roles. He warned it feels like standing alone in a forest with only your thoughts for company. Because when the old performances fade, the first thing that surfaces is the sound of your unprocessed emotions. You might feel restless, sad, even angry. That's not regression, that's re-entry. All the feelings you postponed while being strong for others start asking to be seen. The truth is, distraction was never the problem. It was the anesthesia. Every conversation that pulled you away from your own discomfort was a way of avoiding this moment. And now that the anesthesia has worn off, You can finally hear what your inner voice has been trying to tell you for years. You've been tired, not broken. You've been kind, but too often at your own expense. This is what sacred solitude reveals: not punishment, but perspective. The realization being alone is not the same as being lonely. There's a profound difference between isolation and solitude. Isolation is avoidance. Solitude is arrival. One hides from the world, the other returns to the self. Researchers at the University of Virginia once found that most people would rather give themselves mild electric shocks than sit alone with their thoughts for 15 minutes. That's how uncomfortable we've become with stillness. We crave noise not because it fulfills us, but because it distracts us from the weight of our own awareness. But when you stay, when you don't reach for your phone, your playlist, your escape, the silence starts to speak. At first, it whispers memories you've ignored. Then it shows you truths you've buried. And eventually, it does something extraordinary. It starts to heal you. Because solitude isn't an empty room, it's a recalibration chamber. Every minute you spend alone without performance rewires your nervous system for authenticity. You learn that your company is not a consolation prize. It's a sacred place of restoration, the turning point, the repatterning. Slowly, a new rhythm appears. You stop checking who viewed your story. You stop anticipating the next call. Instead, you begin noticing the texture of time, morning light on your wall, the sound of your own breathing before the day begins. Your energy, once scattered across 100 minor obligations, starts returning in fragments: a thought here, a spark of creativity there. And then one day, without planning, you catch yourself smiling at nothing in particular. That's not boredom. That's presence. Solitude teaches you emotional sufficiency, the ability to self-soothe without external validation. It doesn't make you antisocial. It makes you sovereign. You stop needing people to mirror your worth because you've finally seen it yourself. And that's when relationships change. You no longer bond over shared wounds, but over shared awareness. You no longer chase attention, you attract resonance. You no longer confuse intensity for intimacy. People who once drained you now find your calm disarming. The ones who love you for your peace, not your performance, begin to appear. The practice: living from the center. How do you live from this new space without collapsing back into old patterns? By creating rituals that keep you anchored. Morning reset. Before you absorb anyone's energy, return to your own. 10 minutes of stillness. Eyes closed. One question: what do I need today to stay honest with myself? Your body already knows the answer. Midday checkpoint. Between tasks, pause for one deep breath. Inhale through the nose. Exhale through the mouth. This resets your vagus nerve, grounding your system before the stress takes hold. Silence doesn't have to be long to be powerful. Evening closure before bed. Ask, did I act today out of peace or out of fear? If fear, forgive yourself. If peace, thank yourself. Both responses move you closer to alignment. These small pauses train your nervous system to associate quiet with safety, not danger. Over time, silence becomes not the absence of connection, but the foundation of it. The deep shift when you stop performing. When you no longer perform your personality to be liked, people's reactions stop defining your reality. You realize that misunderstanding is survivable. That being misread doesn't erase your truth. You stop explaining your boundaries because you've embodied them. Something subtle happens here. Your vibration steadies. People who once thrived on your emotional reactivity lose interest. Those who value authenticity begin to find you magnetic. It's not because you've become mysterious. It's because you've become clear. Clarity doesn't need to shout. It just is. And in that clarity, you begin to understand one of life's strangest paradoxes. When you stop trying to prove your worth, you start attracting people who already see it. That's the quiet law of resonance. The universe doesn't respond to what you chase, it responds to what you embody. The renewal from silence to creation. Every time you withdraw from noise, you create room for vision. New ideas surface. Old dreams wake up. The mind that once replayed old conversations begins composing new possibilities. You might feel pulled toward art, writing, nature, or prayer. That's not escapism. That's expansion. Remember, creativity isn't reserved for artists. It's the natural byproduct of a regulated mind. When your energy is no longer leaking into drama, it starts building worlds. So write, paint, walk, breathe. Create not to be seen, but to feel alive again. Let solitude become your studio, the place where you build a life that feels like you. The integration staying open without collapsing. Rebirth isn't about closing yourself off. It's about returning to the world differently, less reactive, more rooted. You can still love deeply, still connect, still serve, but now from fullness, not depletion. You respond because you choose to, not because you're afraid not to. You help because your heart is clear, not because your guilt is loud. That's maturity, the ability to stay open without dissolving. And yes, sometimes you'll falter. You'll overgive again. You'll explain when you could have stayed quiet, but now you'll notice faster. You'll recover sooner. You'll apologize to yourself first. Progress isn't a straight line, it's a spiral. Each loop brings you closer to the center. The closing becoming whole. So here you are, not who you were, not yet who you'll be. Standing in the stillness between roles, realizing that peace was never something to earn. It was what remained when you stopped performing. Your absence has taught others your value. Your silence has revealed your strength. Your solitude has returned you to your source. You no longer chase belonging, you create it through presence. You no longer beg for understanding, you live so authentically that explanation becomes unnecessary. You no longer fear losing people, you've met the one person who will never leave yourself. And that self, steady and awake, carries a new kind of power. Not loud, not controlling, just unshakable. The world may still spin with chaos, but you now move through it like water, soft yet unstoppable. Because when you protect your silence, you protect your essence. And when your essence is safe, everything else falls into place naturally. So tonight, sit for a moment in the quiet you once feared. Feel it fill the space around you. That's not emptiness. That's your life, finally making room for you. Ask yourself this as the lights go out. Am I brave enough to build a life that doesn't need constant noise to feel alive? Because if the answer is yes, even softly, even barely, then your rebirth has already begun.